Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? Are you ready? Get ready, dog. Get ready.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Rocket Networker podcast. I always like to begin with a silly networking story. Today's story is about building your personal network by volunteering your time to help organize events and make connections for your college alumni association. Over 30 years, I've met thousands of University of Toledo alums across the United States and around the world. Their success always amazes me. And that's where today's Rocket Networker guest comes in, Megan McPhilliamy. Megan is a fitness instructor for the New York City Police Department, and she's a proud member of Alpha Chi Omega sorority. Megan and I share a common love of the University of Toledo and worked together as volunteers for many years in New York City. We spent time supporting our fellow alums in the greater New York City area. Megan, thanks for making time in your busy schedule to join us on the Rocket Networker podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I was very flattered to be asked to come here and speak to you today, Rick.
Well, I think that the audience is going to want to talk about your experience, not only in New York City, but also with the NYPD. I think that is very cool. And we're going to have fun talking about your journey. What's it like living in New York City?
I've actually been living in the city since 1999. So I don't know how I could describe it in one word or a couple sentences because it's just changed so much. Good, bad, and indifferent, but it's just, the noisy, chaotic, fast-paced that it always is. And I will say, because I'm at home talking to you right now, that if in the background you do hear any ambulances or sirens, it's just because I do live in the city right on First Avenue. So there might be some background noise. Anytime I do anything live, people always will ask if I'm okay. And I'm like, it's just street noise. But no. I've been here for 28 years in the city, so I'm just so attuned to the pace and the hours and kind of having everything that you need right here right outside my front door.
So, right, in walking distance. Well, we're going to have fun in the conversation. So let me give you a little bit of background. The podcast is about a concept that I call the threads of connectivity. These are the little things that connect us beyond work life. And, we all have a day job, but, the things that connect us in life are our hometown and high school and college and our volunteerism, the things that our hobbies, right? Those are the things that really bond us as people, more so than our work. So let's take that concept and let's go back outside New York City. We're going to leave New York.
Okay.
Now let's go back to your hometown. Where are you from?
I grew up in St. Clairsville, Ohio. So not too far from the West Virginia border, all the way east, and a good 4-hour drive out of Toledo.
Now let's talk about what was it like there? Like growing up, what was the town like?
You know what? It's a town it's a county seat of Belmont County. It had 5,500 people in it. Okay. And as far as I'm concerned, it was a great place to grow up. I mean, There was no crime. I felt safe. I could walk into town. I could walk to school. And you knew everybody. Right. It's just like, it was a little version of like Friday Night Lights in a sense, because it's like the community, everybody that lived in St. Clairsville worked in the town. And again, with the county seat, you had all the attorneys and then you had all the businesses. We called it uptown instead of downtown. But the people that lived there, and it's like the people that I grew up with, parents were the professionals in the town and worked in the school and worked in the hospitals and things like that. I mean, I guess there were still some people, obviously, that worked in the coal and the steel mills because that's part of the part of the state. But yeah. You knew everybody.
So that's neat. That's a cool time. Now, do you have siblings?
Yeah, one younger sister who's 3 years younger, but 2 grades. And graduated from St. Clairsville in 93, right behind me. And she went to Kent State.
Okay. What high school did you go to? What was the name of the high school?
Same as the town, St. Clairsville High School.
Now, were you involved in sports or student government or anything like that?
All the sports. Yeah. I never stopped. It's just like I went from playing volleyball to basketball to softball. It's just three seasons. If I could have snuck something else in there, I would have. I came out of there. I mean, I guess to brag, I came out of there, like I said, 10 varsity letter athlete at a high school.
Wow,
But
that's cool.
and wanted to just go to school after that, like not really looking to play sports. I just think
Interesting.
I just
Interesting.
had enough. They talk about like the high school burnout,
Yeah.
with the sports, and it's like I just want to go away to school, and I mean, I knew I was still going to be active. I wasn't going to just stop, but I wasn't really looking to play sports when I.
So let's talk about senior year a little bit, or junior year, senior year. You're coming to the end of high school. What were you thinking? Were you thinking like, hey, I'm going to join the military, or I'm going to go to college, or I'm going to go do skilled trade? I mean, what were you thinking your
Yeah,
senior
no.
year?
I wanted to go to college, and I wanted to go to way. My parents were like super supportive of that. They wanted us, my sister and I, to go to school. My dad was just like, it's got to be a state school. I can't send you somewhere private school or out of state.
Right.
It's just too expensive. And um, my whole love was the math and science field. So I was definitely looking for a science-based major, trying to decide like that's what I was good at and that's what I enjoyed. So came up with the decision that I was going to look at pharmacy schools.
Okay.
That was the driving thing. And at the time, I don't know if it's the same. There were only 4 schools in Ohio that are pharmacy,
Okay.
and it was Toledo, Ohio State, Cincinnati, and Ohio Northern.
Okay.
And it went to look at them, and I decided on Toledo. You walk on that campus, and there's just something about that main campus that's like, this is what college is supposed to be like, right? It's
Right.
beautiful. It's landscape. Those buildings look amazing. And I'm like, this is it. I'm sold. I'm going. So then
Okay. All right.
I was set on going to Toledo like that. I applied, and I was like, okay, this is where I want to go.
Just felt like home. That's cool. Okay, so let's go there now a little bit. So you go to the University of Toledo. Talk about that transition. What was that like for you coming from way away from Toledo to
Well,
Toledo? What was that like?
first off, like I felt like I honestly was like the only person on campus that wasn't from Cleveland, because
Okay.
everyone was from Cleveland. And when
Yeah.
Thursday night or Friday afternoon came, they all went home. And I would joke, I was
Yeah.
like, what's like Cleveland, like a magnet? Like you can leave for a period of time, but you got to go back. My parents dropped me off and wished me well and said, we'll see you at homecoming. How many weeks later they were going to come, and then we'll see you at Christmas when you come home. Like I wasn't going anywhere. So it
Right.
was a big transition, moving into the dorms, but I was up for it. I was like, I wanted to go away. Like I knew I wasn't going home every weekend. And it was great. I mean, I
Yeah.
lived in I don't do they even have that anymore. I lived in the all girls dorm in Toledo.
Is that right?
Yeah,
What do you remember which one it
McPhilliamy
was?
Hall, I think it was. Yeah, that was it's not there anymore, but there used to be the
Yeah.
quad was across from
Yeah.
it. But we lived in
Yeah.
all girls. I lived in the all girls dorm, and you know what? Those girls that lived in that dorm, those are all my sorority sisters.
Okay, so let's go there. Did you get involved? Did you get what types of things did you get involved with?
So freshman year, it was just the adjustment from being in college and trying to get used to going to school and the class and the schedule. And so obviously the student rec center was my first target, was going there. And then I like the first quarter that we were there, that was pretty much it. I mean, I don't even think I got into playing intramurals yet. That was coming. But in January of that first year of school, that's when I went through rush.
Okay.
So I didn't go through formal rush. I didn't come to school like the week or two before classes started in September. We were these girls I lived in that dorm with. That now remember, we're fast friends. We moved in what, September, and
Right.
now it's in January, and we're rushing Alpha Chi Omega. And
Interesting.
3 of us went in the first time, and then in 2 pledge classes later, the next 2 went. So there were 5 of us
Really?
that lived in the dorm on the same floor that all became sorority sisters.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So now you get involved in sorority, you got school going on. Did you get involved in other things? Did that sorority involvement lead you to other student organizations?
It was pretty much, well, I mean, I told you I went to the rec center. So what happened at the
Right.
end, like not freshman year, I mean, it's hard to remember anything that you did. I mean, I think it was mostly just once Greek life kicked in, then you just got involved in that, because it's like, here comes all the charity work and the volunteering and like
Right. And
having
events.
positions on the Alpha Chi Omega board. But then at the beginning of my junior year, I got a job at the student rec center. So having a job at the rec center and being in the sorority was that and class. And I changed my major by that point. So
let's back up a little because you talked about coming there wanting to get into pharmacy.
yeah.
Now,
Okay.
did you stay in pharmacy, or where did that academically transition?
So the classwork was fine. It was, again, it was all the math and science, and it was but it's like you started to realize, at the school, it's like you're in class with everybody that's pre something, right? So pre pharmacy, dental, med, vet, nursing, PT, exercise science, all of that. But you have to apply then to the pharmacy school.
Right.
So, and you're applying with everybody that didn't get in like the previous semesters and years, and the people from the other schools from Ohio State and Cincinnati. See, that's where Ohio Northern was key. Because if you got into that school then and you kept your grades for 5 years, you went through the pharmacy school. It just, at the time, unfortunately, it came down to money. Like we didn't have the money to go to that school. So, coming into my sophomore year, you're seeing how hard this is. Did I have good grades? Yes, but I did not have superstar grades. And I'm seeing these people apply and apply and apply. Remember, I'm also at the rec center 3-4 times a week. And it's like now I took the aerobics instructor exam over there. And then I started to talk to the Laura Rieger, that was the wellness coordinator that ran that. And I started looking at my options, and I decided at the end of my sophomore year, I was changing my major to exercise science.
Gotcha.
So
gotcha. All right. So now you get into exercise. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I cut you off.
That's where the transition comes.
Yeah, I got you. That's cool. All right. So now let's fast forward a little bit. So now all of a sudden you're getting into that junior, senior year, and you're starting to think about life after college now.
Right.
Let us into your thinking there.
So, at that point, now remember, like don't think about all the social media and what you know about fitness and how it's like right here on your phone and whatever. This is 1995, 95, right? So what are you going to do with this? And you start looking, and it's like, I realized that, you know what? I want more education in this. I really want to get a master's degree in exercise physiology because I want to go into personal training and I want that education. I don't want to just be, say, in a gym training clients or something like that. I was still hungry for the education. So you start looking at all the graduate programs. Could I have stayed at Toledo? Sure. But I really wanted to go to grad school. And I will tell you that because Toledo has the undergrad, grad, and they have a PhD in exercise science. So now here I am in like my last advanced exercise classes, and the PhD students are around, right? They're working on their stuff, but they're also TAing in our class. One of the guys that was there had gone to Adelphi University in Long Island. He was from Toledo, undergrad. He went to New York for grad school, and he was back working on his PhD in exercise science. And he said to me, the best advice I could give you is apply to go to Adelphi for grad school. That will open more doors than you can imagine. And he's like, and they're very friendly. There's a good connection between the professors in Adelphi and the professors that were there at the time at Toledo. So that was Fred Andres and Mike Flynn. From Toledo, and he's like, you got to go for it. So I was like, all right. So, you mail the little flyer in, right? You get all the information from Adelphi and you get paid and you start applying for those graduate assistant positions. That was it. That was the key. So.
Very cool. All right. So now you graduate. Now you obviously got into Adelphi.
Got into Adelphi as a graduate assistant.
Okay, so now they're paying you, which is even better. So now you transition out, you move out, and tell us where Adelphi is located in New York.
Yeah, so Adelphi University is in Garden City, New York, which is in kind of not quite. It's in Nassau County, so it's like not even mid-island, so not too far from the city. In a beautiful town, Garden City. If you don't know anything about Garden City, Long Island, it's gorgeous. And the university's right there. But here's the deal. So back when I went to school, there were like 20,000 students right in Toledo. Right. Okay, now I'm coming to a small D2 school for this. Then this is one, like this graduate program in exercise physiology back then was in like the top 5 of the country. I'm coming to a school with 2,000 students.
Wow.
Okay, there's no
Wow.
football team. Soccer is their main thing. And it's like, I'm grad for grad school. It didn't matter. Like I graduated from 2 buildings in the gymnasium, but it was
Yeah.
so different coming from the campus in Toledo and all of that. And I was like, this college experience is so different to see the other side of it. So yeah, we graduated in Toledo in June, and I came to New York on July 5th of '96, 2 weeks later.
Wow.
There was no
Wow.
forth a couple times in between that, but it was just like
Yeah.
boom. My friends and those sorority girls were like on Euro passes in Europe and hiking and doing things or part-time jobs. I was in the library.
Yeah.
I
You're
didn't remember that
studying
summer.
with your 2,000 best friends, right, at Adelphi.
Yeah.
So let's fast forward now. You're getting ready to finish your master's up. Now what are you thinking? Like, what are you going to do after your master's?
So, and just so you know, that program was 13 months. That was it.
Okay,
So as a
quick.
graduate assistant, you worked full time for the university, full class load, taught undergrad classes, TA'd, whatever. So now the best thing was like, what are you going to do? Are you going to stay? Because now you've met that whole network of past graduate assistants. And you know what? They're the people that were going to give you a job because back then, remember, this is the 90s, corporate fitness was raging. The
Yeah.
hospitals all had cardiac rehab, pulmonary
Yeah.
rehab, and this is where they all worked. So
Right.
you needed to meet them. We met them at certification get togethers, holiday parties, conferences, and all of that. And so it was just like, here's your connectivity. It's like, if I'm going to get a job and I'm going to stay in New York, I'm going to go out there and I am going to meet all these past Adelphi graduate assistants that are out here in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut working, find myself a job. That's
Okay. All
exactly
right.
what happened.
So you get out in the market, you're talking to the network, which is what we're supposed to do,
Yeah,
right? That's why
exactly.
we're on the
Yeah.
podcast. We're talking about networking. So what happens from there? Where did
So
you
I
land
landed
at?
at MetLife insurance company. So in MetLife, because I wanted to
Okay.
stay. My parents were like 50-50 on like, you're going to stay in New York. And I was like, if I made it this far, like I'm not going back. I will, let me try this.
Right.
So I got a job with MetLife Insurance in their corporate fitness center. They were located right here in Manhattan, by Madison Square Park at that time. And so I went in there were 2 managers and myself. And so they ran a big corporate fitness center. And, corporate fitness was huge in the 80s and 90s. Those companies were like,
Mhm.
it was not the most cost effective thing. But, the idea was like, hey, we have this in-house huge corporate fitness center. So our employees are going to go work out. So they're going to be less stress, more productive, less stress, less vacation and sick
Right.
days. Remember, I'm working for an insurance company. They want less of that.
Right.
And it was great, but that's where I cut my teeth. I was there for a little over 3 years. I was like I taught a ton of group fitness classes, and we ran this big giant corporate fitness center. So
That's pretty cool. So you're at MetLife, you're settling into life in New York City. Where do you go next?
settling into New York, you're working. I'm still playing. I'm playing all kinds of intramural sports, making a lot of friends. But I wanted a new challenge. Like I wasn't gonna stay. It was a great entry level job, but there had to be something else. So I started looking for a job, and I went to work for a big sports medicine company, Manhattan Sports Medicine and Excelsior Physical Therapy. And they were on the Upper East Side, right by Bloomingdale's. And so
Okay.
after a little over 3 years in Met, I went there. And this is going to be my home now for the next 14 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Wow.
the
Now,
practice
here's
just kept getting bigger and bigger. I got hired. There were only 4 personal trainers, instructors, and when I left, there were like 10.
okay. So it couldn't have been that bad if you stayed 14
Yeah, it wasn't
years and you're
bad.
probably learning and
It's
having
like
some fun.
anything where it's like, should I have left before I did? Yes. It's where you built out
Right.
the personal training business, met a lot of really, really amazing, like fun folks, and had some real New York experiences with them. But like anything else, you just outgrow it. I just outgrew the
Right.
job, and again, you're looking for something else. Like, what was
Right.
the next challenge?
All right. Now, here's my next question about that time frame, that 14-year period. And if you can't answer it because of like client confidentiality and that's cool. But I'm dying to know, like, who was the coolest
Yeah,
patient that came
like you
through there? If
can't
you
because
can't
it's
answer
like
it,
that
that's
all
fine.
still falls under those HIPAA laws. It was like that office was a very like who's who of the city and the world. And it's like, you met a lot of CEOs of business. I mean, you met a lot of people from the fashion industry, from the art world, publishing. So you definitely were amongst a lot of interesting people. And I always say them as like my New York experiences, because some of them became your training clients. So it's like, you would never be in these people's apartments to see their art collection, right? In any other way. Like, why would I ever, I would never come in contact with those type of people or have the experiences where some of them took you with them when they traveled to train them. So you went to, we went you went to Florida, went to Rhode Island, you were in Vermont, like places like that, because they took you with, and I spent 2 summers in the Hamptons. I spent 2 summers in the Hamptons.
That's cool.
Everybody thinks it's so great and glamorous. It's like, was it great? I made a lot of money, but I was also there by myself, and I had to be in the gym at 8 a.m. in the morning. So I wasn't out like,
every day. Yeah.
But yeah.
Right. Well, that's kind of cool. That's part of that, like the New York experience, though. That's
it's
part
just,
of the city.
If you just,
you know
like,
what I mean?
You work someplace else, maybe not so much, but yeah. And again, like, that wasn't my life, that was their life. And it's just like, they were paying you for a service to be their trainer. And it's like, if they threw something else out at you, hey, you're going to come to the Hamptons, or can you do this? Or like, would you like my Knicks tickets or my Ranger playoff tickets or whatever? Great. Awesome. Like, I just chalked them up as my New York experiences.
So now you're working there, you're 14 years. What's next?
So now,
what happens next?
My parents were still back in St. Clair's though, but they were spending a lot of time in South Carolina. And I really, at that point, so now you're looking at it, now it's like 2014, right? And they're really jonesing to possibly move south for full time. And my sister, who, by the way, like, she graduated from Kent and she lives in Denver, Colorado. So we were really, really pushing for our parents to go south. So in 2014, I left the sports medicine clinic. And I decided I was going to maybe for the first time leave New York. And so I started looking for jobs down south. Nothing. But the NYPD found me because those resumes were out there on those sites. And I got a cold call from a fitness supervisor for the NYPD. And I was like, the NYPD? Like, what? And she's like, yeah, we saw your resume. We're hiring fitness instructors. I'm like, to do what? Like, I'm like, the police department, what was I going to do? So she's like, no, we run these corporate fitness centers. We have these gyms. We'd like to talk to you. Can you come in? And I think I went the next day. I threw a suit on and I went the next day. And my first thought was like, hey, you know what? Whatever. This is going to fulfill. I'm going to one police plaza, right? This is going to fulfill every Law and Order fantasy like I've ever had. I'm going to one. Whatever happens, happens, right? That's how I think about a city job. Like, it's like the best thing you could say about it is like, it's a hurry up and wait. So they interview you, right? And they tell you they're at that time they were going to hire 5 instructors and different locations. And they ask, could you work in some of these other boroughs? And if you said no, maybe it meant the job. But they really asked me, like, if I would work at 1PP. They didn't have any permanent instructors. The staff that they had, because at the time, the department, we had 14 gyms that we run throughout the 5 boroughs for the police department. And they didn't have any permanent instructors at headquarters. The instructors, they kind of just shuffled through there. So it wasn't anybody's permanent base. So I was like, of course, I'll come work at 1PP. So I interviewed in July. I didn't get hired till the following February. So in all that time was when I was down south, because I thought, okay, I'm interviewing and the process is just going on. So I went down south and I tried. I tried in South Carolina, Georgia, Savannah, to no avail, nothing. I either was too experienced for the jobs that were there, and they just couldn't pay me really a living wage.
Right. So NYPD comes in, it's February, and they say, come on back home to New York. So you go back up.
So they called like right at the like MLK, like right at that holiday break, and said, how fast can you get here? So, but remember, like, I left my job, and so all I was doing was personal training, so I had a bunch of clients. That's what was sustaining me. And so I gave the job. I said, I'll be there in 2 weeks, because I had to get rid of some of them. I could shift into the afternoon because I was going to work an early tour, but some I had to relinquish. So some of the girls that I worked with in the sports medicine clinic, I said, hey, I'm going back to work full time. Can you take so and so and so and so from my schedule? So there was a little transition of that, and then also getting myself prepared to
Right,
go back
right.
to work full time.
Now, how long have you been there
So
now
I'm
with the
in
NYPD?
February. I started my 10th year. Time was
Wow, time
flying,
is
yeah.
flying
So I
by, isn't it?
started with them in February of 15.
Now, what's your favorite part of that work with the
Oh,
NYPD?
the
What do you
people.
love?
The people make the
Is that
people make
right?
the job. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm in a gym. I'm in a very, comfortable position. I've worked in a gym my whole career. Um, but we run this and I work
Right,
with my coworker that I worked with at MetLife. I think I told you that before we started. So when I worked
wow,
at MetLife, one of
right.
the instructors that I work with, his name was Albert, and he came on the job with me at NYPD 5.5 years ago. So I'm back. It's like the dream team. We worked together in the night. We worked together in the
So,
90s, and now we work at the police department. So it's great that I work with him, but it's just the people. I mean, and it's just like, and also just the type of work that they do, and you know, you just learned like what everybody's decision, like how do they decide to come on this job, and like what it means to them, and like what it means to have a gym to work out in every day. It's huge. It's the
right,
best part of their
right,
day, I'm telling you.
right. Well, especially for police at
Any
any
level.
level, right? At any level of a police organization, you got stress, the physicality of their work, and then they're aging, and then they've got just the emotional pressure
Correct.
of those
Yeah.
jobs from the top to the bottom. The
Yeah.
pressure is
I don't. It
intense.
doesn't matter if you're a cadet or you're a chief, and it's like everybody's in the gym. There's
Yeah,
no rank in the gym,
yeah,
so anybody can use it. They pay a very nominal fee for the year. Once they join, they can use any of them. So say you work at one PP and you're there during the week, but you live in Staten Island or the Bronx, you could use the gyms there as well. So yeah,
right,
we're a staff. We just
right.
opened a new gym last week in Queens, and we have three more that we're opening. So anybody that's listening to me that lives in New York, uh, keep a post on DCAS. That's the hiring for the city of New York, because hopefully in July or August they're going to throw up fitness instructor again for a job. So if anybody's out here
Okay,
in New York, it's just like keep checking that, because we do need to. We haven't got the approval yet. We're waiting for the budget. But we will hire fitness
right.
instructors hopefully sometime towards the end of the hopefully end of fall, end of the year. So
Okay, cool. So, all right, that's good to know, by the way. So let's do this for a second. Let's kind of sum up a little bit here. If you could go back to your hometown and go into the high school that you graduated from, and you could sit with freshmen, what would you share with them about what they're about to enter, right, into their high school years? What would you share with
wow,
them?
how about stay in school? Like that's the best bet. Like you get a good education. I mean, the high school's still a good place to be. It's still a great town to grow up in. Um, and that it is a small town, but you have the ability to go anywhere and do anything that you want. Don't feel like you just have to stay there. I would never. If you would have asked me
Right,
when I was a freshman, was I going to be in New York City? No, I didn't know that. Freshman year in high school, it's like I want to do good in high school and get grades because I want to go to college and I want to go away. And my parents were super supportive of that. Um, so I would say, like,
right.
you dream big. Like, you could go anywhere. You never know, like, you're gonna go to college and who you're
You
gonna
could do.
meet or what path it's gonna take. Um, you know, there's plenty of people that stay in the town, and that's great. That's what they chose to do. I wanted out. And by no bad means. I have nothing bad to say about growing up there. Like, I think the biggest thing was I got a great education and it was safe. It was safe.
Yeah, dreaming big is something that's important, whether you are in a small town or a big town. You got to dream big, and you got to just go
Yeah,
for it,
you got
right?
Yeah, like you
Just
said to
make
me,
your
like,
own way.
follow that lead with the NYPD. See if you get the job. It's like, hey, apply to that dream school. Maybe you get in. Apply to that trade school. Decide you're going to go in the service. Like, you got options.
It's interesting in the sales profession. There's an old saying that if you never ask for the sale, you're never going to make a sale. You're never going to get the sale. You got to ask for it to get it. And it's true in life. You got to dream big. And like you just said, apply for those big jobs, apply for those big schools, because let them say
Right.
no to you.
Yeah,
Don't say no to yourself. Such a
and
great
that's
piece
why,
of
like, the
advice.
whole thing with the job, like, all that time and trying to, like, waiting to see what the police department was gonna say, and you're getting anxious and whatever, but I'm like, I wanted to see if I was gonna get the job. Then I got to decide if I was gonna go
Right.
and work there. And, they're like, "Look, here, you wanna talk about your connectivity and whatever, here I am bringing my coworker from the '90s to the job, with me, and we make a good team."
Right.
And it's like, I feel like I make a big difference in those people's day for what all that experience, like,
Right.
you coming from, you bring the small town mentality. They love me because 'cause I'm good at sports. They don't understand. They do not understand college football mentality. The New Yorkers, they just don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
a New
not a
York
New York
thing.
thing,
Yeah.
but the sports thing. So, yeah, you brought all that experience, like in the grad school and like all those years of work in the sports medicine clinic. So it's like you're coming, like you said, the stress of the job. You're out on the streets. You're doing these details. You're doing transit. These guys and girls are beat up. So it's like all that rehab experience and everything that I have fit in perfectly. And it's just like, you're personal training
Yeah.
them and you're helping them out and you're getting them to where they want to be. Everybody's stubborn, right? Everybody's got a sore shoulder. Everybody's back hurts. Everybody's hip. Well, you know what? It's like we can make a difference. And it's like I get a lot of good
Right.
feedback
We can help.
from the gym members. They always say like that we're just so happy that you're here. You brought all this experience and knowledge and you're
Right.
there and you run our gym and you take care of us and I said I think I told you before, it's just like the personnel department Instagram page, the NYPD personnel department, they did an Instagram reel on me in February. And it's like they asked me the questions like, how did I get into this? How did I get to New York? And like, what do we do? And I said, you don't know when somebody comes to the gym every day, like, why are they there? Not everybody's looking to lose weight and big gains. Like people are there for their mental health. That's the only time they have to themselves, the only time that they're not taking care of family and stuff like that. And I'm just happy to be part of their day. And if make a difference, then great. It makes me feel good.
Well, I tell you what, we
Oh,
could
all
carry
night.
this conversation on for a while, but I have to ask this because in New York City, for those in the audience that have not been there, if you're watching us on the YouTube channel, if you look over Megan's shoulder, you'll see a rack of clothing. And I don't know a lot about it, and I may not say it right, but I believe that you're into Poshmarks. Is that right?
Yes,
Am I
I
saying
am.
it right?
That's my side. I would say a part-time job now. I am a clothing reseller. I started that as a side hustle. Just, if you see the ads on TV, like, oh, you could sell the stuff out of your closet, download the app. And that's what I did. But I just got more and more involved in it. And during COVID, I lost my personal training business. Okay. So even though I was working for the
Right.
NYPD, I still had a whole training business on the side. I had some of my own clients. I also worked for another company. And when COVID hit, there were no gyms, including our gym closed too. I got reassigned. That's a whole other story for a
Right.
different day. I was essential. I had to go to work every day for the police department, but I had to do a different job. But I ramped up the Poshmark out because what was everybody doing during COVID? They were cleaning out their closets and purging stuff. And I just on
Hmm.
all the social media posts from Facebook Marketplace to Nextdoor, and I just went around and I picked up inventory from people. So I ramped up the reselling. I sell on like 4 different marketplaces, Poshmark being the most. That's the one I've been involved in with 10 years. Um, and when the gym started to slowly open, you were starting from scratch. And you know what? Honestly, I make more money reselling clothes than I did personal training. So I stuck with it. I have personal training. I'm in a gym day and I'm training people and working there. And then it's just like this is my side hustle. And I don't have all the running around. Listen, I like training and I love the aspect of doing it, but it's like you got to a point where the grind, I always say like personal training can be a very young person's job because it's like, I left work at 3
Right.
o'clock and you're working until 9 or 10 o'clock at night and you're running from east side to west side,
Right.
uptown,
It's physical
downtown.
too.
You got clients and it's great, but I got to a point where it's like, I just didn't have a lot of Megan time.
So you'll all have to check out Megan on LinkedIn and find other ways to connect with the Poshmark thing with her. And like I said, if you're on the YouTube channel and you're watching right now, you can see the clothing for sale behind her on the rack there. So there's a little
Yeah, there you go.
infomercial for you
Exactly.
and for
Yeah,
Poshmark.
I don't know.
Well, listen.
Oh, I was gonna say,
Go ahead.
like
I'm
you
sorry.
said that to find me. I was just like, oh, right, like links to everything that we're doing here.
I know you've got a super busy schedule, so I'm grateful for you making time
Am I allowed to
to
take a
share your
picture of
journey
us
with
while we're
us. It's
here, real
special.
quick?
Yeah, you can take a picture.
Okay.
That's it for this episode of the Rocket Networker podcast. Now it's time to launch connections to ignite your success. And the key question is, are you ready? To schedule a Rocket Networker training program or keynote speech, go to rocketnetworker.com. It's time to launch connections to ignite your success. Are you ready?